This is Paul Eugene, and welcome to Inspiring You. I've been waiting all day to give you this message of hope, of encouragement that will lift you up. You know, today's word is this. You find yourself between a rock and a hard place. You know, in life, we come against frustrations that we may tell ourselves, I'm between a rock and a hard place. You may say, how did I get here? Or why me? Why am I in this, between this rock and a hard place? You know, I've been there too, and I have asked and said, God, why am I between a rock and a hard place? What purpose do you have for it? It's not fair, I protested. But I have learned that when you find yourself between a rock and a hard place, it's best just to surrender to it, all right? Now, I'm going to share with you one of those times that I found myself between a rock and a hard place. A few years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I said to myself, how in the world could I, of all people, come down with this? I'm only 57 years old, and I have taught the world to exercise their body, soul, and spirit since 1989. And I was feeling fine, feeling good, but I had no idea what was going through my body. And then the news came that indeed I was positive for prostate cancer. And then I found myself between a rock and a hard place. I can't tell you the emotions that ran through my head, the fears, the worries about tomorrow. Would tomorrow come? You know, what would the doctors do? Was it curable? Etc. So I kind of like slowly began to accept that I was in this place between a rock and a hard place. But the good news about it was my diagnosis was at the beginning stages. So my chances of me having it all through my body were slim. And after tests were ran, sure enough, it only stayed in the prostate area of my body. Whew. But I still found myself between that rock and a hard place. I mean, I have kept myself so healthy and fit and strong throughout the years. I still was wrestling in my mind, how could this have happened? But you know, what really got to me was someone got on my nerve by saying to me, you're my fitness instructor, and you're teaching me how to be healthy and fit, and it seems to me that it doesn't matter whether I keep myself healthy, because look at you. I was stunned when they said that to me. And I realized that they missed the whole purpose of being healthy. They have missed the fact that it was never meant for us to live forever in these bodies. They have forgotten that they themselves have gotten sick and had sicknesses in their bodies. They have forgotten that they have lost loved ones to sickness and diseases. So why should I be exempt because of me being this fitness instructor? Perhaps you're finding yourself between a rock and a hard place, and you don't know what to make out of it. But don't despair. I'm going to continue my rock and a hard place. So after the doctor came up with a plan to deal with my cancer, I said, okay, we'll go with that. He said, well, with the condition that you're in for a man your age, it really shouldn't be that difficult. And guess what? The surgery went smooth, as he said it would. But however, something not planned happened. During the recovery stages one night, the catheter that I had to wear, yes, the catheter, it got clogged and it burst. And it sent me into pain like I've never, ever experienced before. You know how they ask you, is your pain between a 1 and a 10? I said, it's off the chart. In fact, the pain was so powerful, and so hurting that I went into some kind of delusion or illusion that I forgot I was in a hospital. In fact, I kind of got into a fetus condition in my bed and cried out, "Call 911." And then I caught myself and said, "Paul, you're in the hospital." And I start laughing to myself. But that's what pain can do. And I had to stay between this rock and a hard place with excruciating pain, unable to control any of my faculties. I felt totally humiliated. But there's another side to this. The roommate that I had in my room, he was a young man in his young 20s, and he was there because he tried to commit suicide 3 times by taking 65 pills. He had no idea that he was in a cancer ward until he heard my doctor talking to me, and then he panicked, and he said to me, he said, "Where am I?" I said, "You're in a cancer ward." He said, "No one didn't tell me that I had cancer." Well, the truth was, he didn't have cancer. There was no more rooms left in the psych ward, so they temporarily put him in my room until they found space for him. Now, my rock between a hard place, it ministered to him because it freaked him out so bad that he promised that he would not try to take his life again. Now, whether he tried it again or not, I don't know because I haven't seen him since. But he tried to convince his family, the doctors, that he would straighten himself up. So I found that my rock between my place between a rock and a hard place also served another human being. It made that young man realize the value of his life. To see me going through my suffering just really hit him so hard. I could only pray and trust that it really turned him around. Well, by daybreak after the catheter incident, I finally got some help. You know how, I don't know if you've been in a hospital where you ask for pain pills and they only last for a few minutes and then they wear off and you're back in your pain. But what did I do when I was in that rock and hard place during that intense 6 hours of pain? I said, "God," and I do believe God exists. I said, "God, you're not taking my pain away, but I believe that you are here with me." And that's all that matters. I know some of you are probably saying, "Well, that sounds very religious or very spiritual." And I get it, because I can't prove God's existence to you. And that's just the way it is. But I rested in that total humility, what I call I surrendered to the rock and the hard place. And when I look back now as I am, I see how I came through that. And it's made me a stronger person because I went through that. And I like to tell a lot of single Christians that who are complaining about their singleness, I said, "You know what? I have a different view of my singleness, because while I was in that between a rock and a hard place, God's presence is what kept me together. I was a single man. I wasn't married. I wasn't even dating. But here's another trickster to that. Prior to the surgery, the person that I was seeing walked away from me because she could not deal with sickness. So I found myself between a rock and a hard place. And I protested, "God, how could this Christian woman do this? How could she walk away?" I never got an answer. But God provided, because he became my strength between that rock and a hard place. So I ask you, are you going, I'm sorry about that. So I ask you, do you find yourself right now between a rock and a hard place? Do you question what it's all about? Do you feel like giving up before you can even find out what it is all about? And what I mean is, there's something in it for you when you find yourself between a rock and a hard place. In fact, had I not been between a rock and a hard place, I would not have gained the strength that I gained from it. I would not. I would probably be still the same person with less strength. But that has really taught me a lot and gave me a lot of strength. And of course, it has boosted my faith in God. See, I serve a God who's in the good and in the bad with me. You might have heard people say that God is good all the time, and he is. But most people can't see the good when they're between a rock and a hard place. They have to quiet down, surrender to that situation for it to manifest itself. So my little short speech today was about between a rock and a hard place and how you can grow and benefit from it if you have the right attitude. This is Paul Eugene. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me to inspire you and your spirit, soul, and body between a rock and a hard place.